Amazing. So, welcome to Coffee and Community. My name's Lisa, and I'm working with my students to help bring weekly interviews of people doing great things around the community with great places. So, today we're lucky enough to have Andrew from St. John's Pride with us. If we could just start off by having you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got involved with St. John's Pride.
Well, as you said, my name's Andrew. I'm a full-time cook professionally at Fish Exchange. In my spare time, I host internationally themed and inspired events throughout the province. Um, it was kind of weird, honestly. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We happened to be doing a photo shoot at the time, and we were just kind of gossiping. And he was telling me about how Pride was having such an issue getting people to run, even though the community is incredibly active. When election season came around, they had very few applicants. So I went home, did a little bit of research, and talked to my partner of the time. And she told me that it seemed like I have some kind of skills to offer, and I should be worth at least running because, as I'm going to get into later, I'm sure, when we talk about elections, even if you don't win, running for the board is one of the most important things you can do because giving people the option to choose between a varying number of voices rather than just the only ones that applied or two or three, or even just the people that tend to run for the board over and over again is what helps us grow and what helps us improve over time, right? So I eventually added my name to the ballot, not really thinking much of it, and was elected.
Amazing. Yeah, there's definitely a reason why it's not good for countries to have presidents or prime ministers for 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 years. It's nice to have that bit of change and new ideas and growth and having different people in and out. It helps get hit all those different angles that you could possibly hit because one person's not going to be an expert at absolutely everything, but if you get different people in, it gets bigger. So that's amazing. Could you tell us a little bit about your role with St. John's Pride and what does a day in your life sort of look like in your role?
So my official role is marketing and merchandising, but unfortunately, we lost a few board members throughout the year due to varying reasons, whether they moved because of a job offer or mental health leave or whatever it was. We all had to kind of band together and work collectively on a lot of the different things that would happen. So a lot of our official roles kind of expanded and weren't really paid as much attention to just to make sure that we could get things done. And when COVID happened, all of the plans that we had made were kind of thrown out the window. So the official titles kind of meant a little bit less and less as days went on, and we all just are in charge of these things happen. But my main focus throughout the year has been firstly overhauling the website that had been just kind of put together by previous board members. Didn't really have anybody officially hired to do so. Merchandise production and sales, obviously, and a big thing that I'm looking at right now is formalizing our previous elections process by doing it on our own website rather than through Google Docs. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, definitely, especially regarding COVID, it's nice to have like a really strong online presence and like a way to do stuff yourself. So you guys are almost lucky in a way to be starting that when all this hit, because I know a lot of different organizations were in a place where they're like, wait, what do we do right now? I barely know how to use Facebook. And it was very hard on a lot of people to really make that switch.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, did you create the website and stuff yourself?
Yeah, so the website that we have right now, it is going through a variety of updates. We kind of were rushed to get it done when COVID hit, but over the past month or 2 months, my main focus has been making it more accessible and more inclusive towards all. And that doesn't just go for making it friendly for all different devices, be it a phone, but it's also about people with like audio or visual disabilities, right? Making sure that that site and the metadata available in that site can handle the requests that those people need, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've recently been talking to a friend I made online, especially about like accessibility through social media and stuff like that. And she was saying like even small changes such as like um, capitalizing the first letter of each word in a hashtag to make it easier for those systems to read and like providing image descriptions like makes such a big difference. Which are things that like take 2 seconds, but you just don't think of them until someone brings them up. So it's nice seeing like a lot of local businesses and organizations really try and strive towards accessibility throughout COVID. So it's nice that you guys are taking those strides and changes. Speaking of COVID, how was Pride this year? How did it go? How are you feeling about it? I know it was a big change. So yeah.
It was great. It's definitely been a rocky road. At the beginning, we were kind of just trying to see whether or not we could do it, and if we could do it, if we could postpone it, do it a little bit later, have alternate dates, things like that. And then there came a point um, in mid spring where we all just kind of looked at each other and were like, okay, this is the situation at hand. Whether or not things change come early summer, come June or July, that's not going to give us enough time to plan something out that is up to the standard that has been set. So we decided to go virtual with it, and I'm really happy, and the rest of the board's really happy with how things turned out. So many people from across the province and across the country were able to take part in many of the events that we had planned, and it really opened up the door to a lot of people that may not have been able to make it all the way down to St. John's, right? Because there is the rest of the province available, and a lot of the smaller communities don't have organizations like ours in their city limits, right?
Yeah, my mom's from she currently lives in a small town in Ontario and she watched one of the drag performances and she was just like, "Alyssa, this is amazing. That's so cool." And I was like, "St. John's has a surprisingly very large drag scene." And she's just like, "When I come visit, I'm going to have to go to a show with you because that's so cool." And it was
Yeah.
interesting that like someone in like a small farm town in Ontario was able to see this really cool drag production going on in St. John's online live with other people. Like
Yeah.
it's such an odd connection, but it's sort of really cool that it worked out that way. But yeah, amazing. I'm glad that was successful. What were some other difficulties with holding Pride online?
Um, well, we didn't really have a precedent. There's no like getting into Pride, getting into anything that's held annually. Like, although we do events throughout the year, most of what people know us for and what people look to us for is the parade, right? So there's a very clear precedent set by years past because the parade has been going on for decades now. That entire precedent and kind of guidebook was thrown out the window, and we didn't really have anyone to look to. And we found ourselves often trying to look towards Pride organizations throughout the country, whether it be Pride Toronto or Pride Vancouver, but also LA Pride, and trying to learn from what they were doing. But a lot of the times that didn't even apply to us either, because how COVID is affecting each of the communities varies so significantly. And one of the biggest challenges that we had is that when Pride Week came, we were in that weird limbo state where all of our preparations were for that lockdown period, and we had opened up. So we had to kind of on the fly try to find the right balance between doing those virtual events and still being physically present and represented in the community, whether it be walking down socially distanced walk down through the pedestrian walkway there, or even doing the meet and greet at the Grapevine. Um, it's it was definitely a challenge, but I'm glad. I think that we did things on the safe side, and if it didn't get the the biggest aspect of the celebration that we needed in person, I'm okay with that in terms of safety.
Yeah, it's much better to be on the safe side, especially with things like this. On a more positive note, tell us about some of your favorite events. What did you love watching, preparing? What did you like doing the most?
Um, Personally, my favorite event was the drag show at the Grapevine. David Blunden had a big hand in that. Huge shout out to him. But also the drag show at Canadian AV. huge shout out to Canadian AV, where we were able to set up a stage and make things look as great as physically we could. You know what I mean? We weren't just doing video calls through Skype. We we were able to have a facility that let us set something up that made it feel special and made it feel real to a lot of people, and didn't just feel like it was thrown together.
Yeah, it looked very good. It looked very professional. I was like, this is so much better than just a Zoom call. It was like quality was good. Like I think people were very impressed with how that was be able to pulled off, especially online. Um,
There's there's definitely some challenges with the audio, and obviously with social media flagging like music, but you know, it is what it is.
it went well. You can only do so much, honestly. So that's how things worked. And do you think this type of format of Pride, do you think it's going to influence future Pride celebrations in terms of accessibility and holding some events online and some not?
Absolutely. It's it, just like everything else in our modern world. This has kind of forced all of us to realize the potential that's always been at our hands and at our fingertips with the technology that we have. And it forced us to make use of it, right? So now people are getting more and more creative with online events, and I'm hoping that rather than just a week chocked full of events in person throughout the year, we're able to work with not only people within Newfoundland, but also people outside of the province. Without having to fly people down or have conversations in person, we can have those virtual conversations and events that allow for that flexibility, right? I can't speak for the next year's board, whether I'm elected or not, but I'm really hoping that this allows for not only a greater quantity of events and outreach, but a better quality as well.
Yeah, yeah. In our last interview, we were talking about with Leah how like online events can reach people, especially like queer individuals in like small bay towns that don't necessarily get to attend these larger events in town. And it turns from more of like a St. John's Pride to like a whole island wide and Labrador Pride too, just because a lot of the times, especially during COVID-19, those individuals can feel really isolated in their small towns. So I feel like this has definitely opened it up to including a lot more people.
It also allows individuals to be a little bit more private. You know what I mean? There's a lot of the people within our community aren't out yet, right? They and even if they are, maybe there's some people in their lives that they haven't had that conversation with, and being able to participate and being able to engage with the community and be a part of the community without running the risk of being photographed or being seen by the wrong person and creating that awkward exchange, it gives them the freedom. It makes them feel more comfortable with not only themselves but the community as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I lived in like rural Ontario with my parents, it was hard seeing all my friends go to these big concerts in Toronto and these giant events. And I was sitting at home like, okay, I'm gonna go walk down the street and go see a cow or something, and that's the biggest event to happen in my life. But like, someone sitting in Bonavista could be watching the drag show with us and participating and commenting in the comments and being as present as everyone else. It sort of puts everyone on that exact same level, no matter how close you are to St. John's or how far away you are. Um, yeah, that aspect of accessibility is really definitely been challenged this year.
Big challenge for sure.
Yeah. In the future, how can students and anyone listening in get more involved with St. John's Pride, such as volunteers or running for different positions? What is there that you guys offer?
So we do on a regular year have quite a number of volunteers, and one of the board positions is actually to oversee those volunteers. Unfortunately, because everything's in virtual, we didn't need as many this year. You know what I mean? But next year, I'm positive if we are doing physical events, we are going to need volunteers, and that's one of the ways that if you don't have enough time on your hands to run for the board, or maybe you have other commitments or whatever it may be, that's definitely the strongest way to help out. But I encourage anybody that if they do have a little bit more free time on their hands than usual next year, please do run, right? Even if you aren't elected, as I said earlier, giving that community the chance to pick from a variety of people allows us to become better and better. You know what I mean? Even if We have great people that consistently run and are on the board all of the time and can do so many things for the board. Having new voices are really important because the space that we're in is ever changing, especially with new research coming out and uh, this world as a whole being more accepted of not only the gender spectrum, but other issues within inclusivity. We need that representation on the board. And whether or not you win, even if you are voted for by a handful or 25 or 50 people, the board that comes in sees those results, right? And it sees that that community is there and wants representation, and it is our job to see that and act upon it, right? And the board has historically not gotten as many applicants as we want. So if there's a senior that's finishing up that doesn't have as much on their plate, or maybe a freshman that was heavily involved in something similar in their hometown or previously, I'd highly encourage them to run. Even if it's not for a co-chair position, it could be a director at large position with a specific role. It's great for your resume. It's great to give you experience, and you can learn a lot from it. And even something as simple as being a city liaison, you can walk away from it with a whole lot gained in experience and in knowledge.
So in terms of like board positions, there's sort of differing levels of involvement. So you don't have to be like full time there. You can have differing levels, and same with volunteering. I'm guessing, is it pretty flexible?
So volunteering is extremely flexible. The board, there are director at large positions and there are co-chair positions. Director at large are 1-year positions, which is what I'm in, and there's co-chair positions, which are 2 years. There is a small honorarium to compensate for the time that you spend in and any resources you may use up. But yeah, we are looking at revising some of the bylaws and our mandate itself, as we committed earlier on in the year. So some of these positions may change, they may not change, but come election season, all of that information will be made available, and it will be really easy and accessible to run.
That's sort of ideal for students too, especially the flexibility piece, because like there's courses that go from like 7 to 9:30 at night, and you're like, I cannot do anything these nights whatsoever. So it's nice for students to be able to know that, like, okay, it's a bit more flexible and open to people in those in the positions of being a student as well.
I would just note that if you are going to run, be aware of the position that you are running for, right? Don't run for a co-chair position if you don't have the time to put into it, right? Because at the end of the day, you're representing the community, and the community does need that effort put in by everyone on that board. There are plenty of positions within the board that you could easily manage within a student schedule. I work full time and I'm still able to do a lot of what we're doing. So just do a little bit of research on whatever position you're trying to run for, know the criteria and know what kind of skill set you would need to do that job, and or to learn that skill set, and definitely do run if you think you fit that bill.
Amazing. Hopefully we can get this word out to students a bit, because I know that there's tons of students that want to get involved but just don't necessarily know how. And especially if it's an easy and quick application, stuff like that. Students are really interested in that. It's hard to sit down and write out an 8-page essay on why you're interested in this executive application and including all of your past history since you were like 5 years old. So it's really nice to know that it's definitely very accessible and flexible. And I think for one of our final questions, where can people find out about future events and initiatives? And do you guys have anything else going on in the upcoming next few weeks?
Right now, we're focusing on the merchandise rollout and the website. To get the quickest information right now is definitely through social media. On Facebook is our priority. Instagram and Twitter follow. All of those socials will be integrated into the website by the end of the summer, so that even if it's not updated for whatever reason in time, you still have that information present there. But 100% social media would be the best place to go.
Perfect. And in terms of contacting you guys, if they have questions about accessibility or how to get involved, is there specific emails or just a general email to ask questions to?
There's a specific email, and when you go onto our website, you can actually go into the our board section and message each of us individually. And if you feel it's a general question, we also have a forum where you can submit a general question, and it gets sent to all of us, and we discuss it.
Perfect. That's really good to know. Well, thank you. That was a nice to the point interview today, but thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to speak with us. Hopefully we'll get this interview posted very soon. And yeah, good luck with the rest of your position. And thanks for coming to talk to us today.
No worries. Have a great day, Alyssa.
Perfect. You as well. We have a message in the chat saying, thank you so much, Andrew, from Catherine.
Thanks, Catherine. Have a great day, guys.
See you later.